In 2021, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton engaged in one of the greatest world championship races, a contest that undoubtedly had its share of controversy and collisions. This was subsequently renewed at the 2022 Sao Paulo Grand Prix as the two engaged in combat, with Hamilton finding speed in a challenging W13 to contend for the victory. Are you wondering why Max Verstappen raced Lewis Hamilton differently? Watch this video for full details. First up, amazing numbers for Max Verstappen's championship-winning 2022 season. Verstappen won 15 races. By winning 15 races this season, Verstappen surpassed the previous record of 13 held by Sebastian Vettel and Michael Schumacher for the most victories in a season. Verstappen also claimed victory in 9 of the 11 previous races. Next, Verstappen also has a 68.2% win rate in the season's races. Verstappen's 15 victories this season, which came in 22 Grand Prix, saw him place first on the podium at 68.2% of the events. Only Sebastian Vettel's 68.4% win in 2013 is higher, making this the second best win percentage since 2005 and the 5th best win percentage in an F1 season. Next, 17 podium finishes. In addition to his 15 victories, Verstappen finished 3rd in Monaco and 2nd in Australia, giving him a total of 17 podium finishes this year, even while this did not match the record for the most podiums in a season, which is 18 triumphs. Verstappen can rest easy knowing that he set the milestone in 2021. Verstappen set a new record for points in a season. The two-time world champion scored 454 points this season, breaking Lewis Hamilton's previous mark of 413 points established in 2019. Also, 146 point gap between first place and second place. Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, who took second in the Drivers' Championship, were separated by this margin. The largest margin of victory in the hybrid era and the second best in F1 history, behind only Vettel's 155-point lead over Fernando Alonso in 2013 was Hamilton's 124-point victory over Valtteri Bottas in 2020. Next, 8 DHL awards. Verstappen earned 8 DHL pole positions this season. However, he only set the pace for the fastest 7 times, and at the Belgian Grand Prix, he was given a grid penalty. Verstappen finished second with his total just 9 behind Leclerc. We also have the 5 fastest lap occasions this season. Verstappen has 5 times this season posted the quickest lap, but he hasn't done so in the last 7 races of the year. This was enough to win the DHL award for the fastest laps of the season. Verstappen concluded the season with 616 laps led, 305 more than Leclerc, who came in second. When it comes to most laps led in a season, this figure ranks 7th all time. Verstappen led 652 laps in 2021, placing him 5th all time. Finally, 3,164 kilometers was covered for the entire season. These 616 laps have allowed Verstappen to hold the lead for 3,164 kilometers this season. Verstappen looks to have circled his home country more than twice this season while in the driver's seat of an F1 race. The Netherlands is said to have 1,478 kilometer circumference. Next up, everyone is focused on 2023 and the possibility of a 3-team fight. After the thrilling 2021 match, the disappointing end of this year's title match is not being blamed on Verstappen or Red Bull, and it also did not go as planned for the other teams. The battle must be made interesting by Ferrari and Mercedes, not the other way around. Ferrari tried its best but fell short. The Scuderia played the worst-case scenario game as their strategists stumbled over one another, and their engines failed to perform as expected. Although it is unknown if they will do so with Mattia Binotto as their coach, they insist that they have learned from their mistakes and will return stronger the next year. Mercedes' onion-shaped W13 bounced more than it raced, which caused George Russell and Lewis Hamilton to lag behind the Red Bulls and Ferraris. Towards the end of their season, they made progress, possibly even enormous progress, and it seems that their late-season improvements were successful, but in Abu Dhabi the bouncing started up again, making all of that work seem in vain. If Mercedes can stop porpoising, expect them to be competitive the following season. If Ferrari can fix their mistakes, they ought to also be competitive. Up next, Lewis Hamilton explains why he thinks Max Verstappen is out to get him. Lewis Hamilton said he is not concerned about feeling like Max Verstappen is hunting him after their late-season race in Brazil. Verstappen's racing of Charles Leclerc and his dominance of the 2022 race alone gave Hamilton and his rival for the 2021 title little opportunity to race one another. At Interlagos in Brazil, where one such opportunity did present itself late in the season, Verstappen tried tried to make a move up the inside of turn 2. The maneuver caused a collision between the two cars and gave the defending champion a time penalty. Hamilton eventually came in second. The 7-time world champion insisted that he has no reservations about the racing standards between Verstappen and himself, and that he thinks it's inevitable that someone who has achieved success and has a lot of numbers on his chest will end up being a target. According to Hamilton, there was nothing he hadn't already taken care of, therefore everything was okay. Also, Lewis Hamilton on what people have to say about him. Hamilton spoke on his current relationship with Verstappen when the Dutch driver was questioned about his claims that he feels like a target for him during an interview with Channel 4 at the end of the season. Hamilton retorted that all one needed to do was pay attention to what certain people were saying about him and then observe how these people were reacting in his immediate surroundings. He added, "It also shows how different people are from one another most of the time." He asserted that some of it was brought on by the amount of time, experience, and success he had amassed. Up next, Lewis Hamilton's response when asked about how difficult adjusting was after a closely fought 2021. After struggling with Verstappen in 2021, Hamilton was left to watch as the Red Bull driver cruised to a second straight championship and a record-breaking season. Mercedes W13 was less competitive in 2022, which is why this happened. Hamilton acknowledged that it had been difficult to acclimate following the intensely competitive 2021 race and highlighted the large, ugly number 1 in his response. A specific regulation that permits the reigning world champion to choose the coveted 1 above their regular career number was brought up by Hamilton in reference to Verstappen's desire to compete in 2022 with the number 1 on his car. Hamilton has had to choose that course of action numerous times since the rule's implementation in 2014. He's elected to continue running with his regular number 44 each time, whereas Verstappen has gone the other way. Hamilton said some assertions made in the media in an apparent attempt to rile him up or rub him the wrong way would fail. He said as much as some people would like to think so, he is not disturbed by anything they say. He continued, seeming unfazed that perhaps if they said or did things to create a reaction, it wouldn't affect him. Next, why Max Verstappen raced Lewis Hamilton differently, and the key difference in Verstappen's race when battling Hamilton and Leclerc. Verstappen won 15 out of the 22 races en route to a commanding second world championship in 2022. Despite having a record-breaking season, he didn't have it all his way, especially in the early half of the year when Charles Leclerc's Ferrari was quite competitive. Although Verstappen did not directly compete for the championship with Hamilton as he did in 2021, he did face off against Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and Carlos Sainz on several occasions. In contrast to his last races with Hamilton, Verstappen's battles with the trio were frequently tough but fair, as mentioned earlier. Since the beginning of 2021, there have been numerous incidents involving Verstappen and Hamilton. According to Karen Chandhawk, Verstappen makes different decisions competing against Lewis Hamilton than he does against Charles Leclerc. According to the former driver turned Sky Sports pundit, when competing against the Mercedes driver compared to other stars, there is an obvious difference in driving style. According to Chandhawk, Verstappen views Leclerc as an equal but feels compelled to throw Hamilton off the throne. Verstappen gives them more room on the track as a result, which is one of the reasons the two haven't made contact this year. Verstappen and Hamilton slammed into one another 4 times in 2021, including in a horrific crash at the British Grand Prix. Chandhawk remarked that he thinks there's a clear difference there. Lewis has been the current generation's king of the castle. Max believes that to dethrone Lewis, he needed to establish himself again. Chandhawk believes he races George, Charles, and Carlos differently because he views them as his peers and is not seeking to dethrone them. Verstappen allegedly has a different perspective towards Hamilton, the other drivers, according to more than just Chandhawk. After their collision at the Brazilian Grand Prix, Martin Brundle claimed Verstappen raced Hamilton with a different set of limits. Martin Brundle said he does not doubt that Max has a distinct set of limitations when racing Lewis. He added that Lewis has similarly chosen to fight fire with fire, so inevitably they struck but carried on. John Watson, a former McLaren athlete, added his voice to the discussion by asserting that Verstappen has displayed different maturity this year. During the first 3 races of the season, when Red Bull and Ferrari were evenly matched, Verstappen had 2 thrilling on-track clashes. Verstappen utilized the DRS to his advantage to win in Saudi Arabia, while Leclerc prevailed in Bahrain. In Jeddah, the two engaged in a courteous duel for several laps but avoided making contact. It happened not long after Verstappen Verstappen and Hamilton collided while battling it out in the final race of the 2021 season. Chand Hawk said Saudi Arabia this year was a terrific illustration of it, especially when compared to last year, which was only a few months earlier. Lewis and Max's race last year, which was highly contentious, was very different from Charles and Max's race this year because they ended half a second apart. That's it on why Max Verstappen raced Lewis Hamilton differently and the key difference in Verstappen's race when battling Hamilton and Leclerc. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye!